So anyway, Putin is, listen, I'm limited. I spent 4 trips, maybe 30 hours with the man. So, and the result, you should see it. I hope you see it. It's called The Putin Interviews. It's 4 hours long. 4 hours long. It was on Showtime. It still is. And it's available through other channels too. You can get it probably on Amazon. You can rent it or you can buy it. He answers these questions that we're dealing with today. Ukraine, foremost in his mind at that point. This was 2000, right after 14. This was 16 area. And he tells me the whole story from his point of view, even down to who's firing who. Who are the people who are firing shots at Maidan? It's not pro-Russian forces because they're firing from buildings occupied by the protesters. It's people who are snipers who are firing at the crowd, killing both policemen and protesters. That's the whole point. It was like the same thing that happened in Venezuela back around that time. That's a CIA technique. Color revolution, then you have the violence. The violence breaks out. Somebody's killing somebody, but you kill from both sides. You create this disturbance. And they killed a lot of cops. They killed protesters, and that kicked off. So who did it? Who was firing from those buildings? There were lots of stories about the neo-Nazi gangs that were coming into Kiev from the west of Ukraine. It's most likely them. I mean, it probably was them. It may have been some foreign mercenaries too. So there was all that violence is what creates that mood for change. So they throw the president out illegally. They don't have an election. We install this guy, Victor, whoever he was. Victoria Nuland is there from the State Department. She's the leader of the neocon faction. And the American ambassador, it's all we got the recordings. They're talking about getting rid, and she even says "fuck the EU" because the EU wants to do it more legally. You know, frankly, France and Switzerland were playing a role here, and Germany were playing a very important role in trying to make this a transition that was democratic. It didn't because they were going to have an earlier election. Didn't happen because of the violence. The Nazis have much more power in Ukraine than you think. The United States denies it because they say Zelensky's a Jew, and that's their motivation for saying, well, how can they be neo-Nazi? That's nonsense. Neo-Nazis were there way before Zelensky, and Zelensky had no power. In fact, when he became president, he had to make a deal with them. He had to make a deal with them because they're tough people. They are telling the president what to do. You cannot change the Ukraine policies. You have the United States telling you what to do, and you have the neo-Nazis telling you what to do. And it's disgusting that the United States condones, it doesn't mention them, doesn't talk about them, but basically condones what the neo-Nazis are doing in Ukraine. That's what's sick, really sick. So when you talk about all that, Putin is talking about that. He talks about Ukraine, and he talks a lot about NATO. This was back then. For him, it's you're putting my back against the wall. You're pushing me. You're strangling me. We're surrounding them. We made the Baltics very aggressive towards them. Sweden, Finland, Poland has been. We put anti-ballistic missiles in Poland. That's horrible. And Romania. And these missiles can be adapted to an offensive weaponry, and in 5 minutes could be in Moscow. You see, from their point of view, they feel the squeeze. You put his back up against the wall, what are you doing? You're going to create a state either where he's going to go to war and he's going to fight back, and he's got the nuclear weapons to do so. They're crude weapons, but they're very big, strong weapons, hypersonic missiles. We have very refined weapons. We have great weapons too, but I wouldn't want to be there in that war. It's not a war that makes any sense for the world. And we're pushing him to the wall. Either that or else we'll get what we want, which is regime change. Bring in some guy like Yeltsin was in 1990 who would work with us, basically cannibalize the country and allow their resources to be exploited.